Bueno, buenos días, bienvenidos.
Good morning, I'm Daniel Mariño. I am a member of the development team for Angular. And today's presentation is to tell you what we've been doing with the Angular generator this year, what functionalities we incorporated, especially those that have to do with developing back-office applications. Back-office applications are those that are for administration, management, that require reporting, business information, reports, graphs, those that require modeling a business process, define task flows, who's in charge at which point in time, and also security solutions, not just authentication, but also defining who can do what with that application. Technically speaking, management and administration applications use grids, filters, they collect elements, they execute on them. This is going to be the first point in my presentation. I'll talk about grids, and then the state-of-the-art regarding how the generator integrates with the GeneXus platform products, like GXquery and so on. Then I'll talk about design, all that has to do with design of screens. We'll talk about design systems and controls. And at the end, Lucas will be showing you the state-of-the-art and how we have moved forward in the case of the Angular generator. And then that's all we'll cover in this presentation. Let us begin with the grids. We have several types of grids in the Angular generator which are available. A grid, the flex grid, the vision grid. These are all grids focused on the development of front-end applications or mobile applications. And what we're used to employing is for native applications for telephones. With the Angular generator, we do the same. We provide support, and we want to add the possibility of doing back-office applications. So we have incorporated a new control, which is called tabular grid, very much used in this type of application. Many of you probably do applications with GeneXus, and you use this generator, and you have the grid control. The tabular grid is very similar to the web generator one. And we started incorporating GeneXus, and we evolved it. And the last one we released is ready to be used shortly. It has new functionalities, new characteristics compared to the traditional web generator. It has an option for the end user to redirect the columns through drag and drop, reorganize them and adjust their order. It also has an option to fix columns for scenarios where we have a lot of information and you have horizontal expansion, and we can indicate that we want set columns in the beginning so as to maintain code and number and so on. And we can fix columns at the end as well. We have an option to have optional columns that are not always necessary, but in some specific cases they may be handy if they are visible. So the end user has an opportunity to go to the configuration button of the grid and list all the columns available for the grid. And he can activate or deactivate them accordingly. This is very useful for the concept of optional columns. It allows us to define which of them we want to see in a desktop size. And if we are working on a tablet, those that are secondary can remain as optional so as not to occupy space. These functionalities are available today, and we will add more functionalities. For example, the option to reorganize the rows in a column by clicking the heading of a column. This is reorganizing by bringing information from the database. Also an option to have a drop-down menu where we can click and see the filters that can be applied on the column, and they will be applied automatically. We also have news regarding the pagination. It supports two types of pagination models. We can have the ad infinitum, and we can add new registers, or the traditional one, which is page by page. And we have the traditional buttons to organize the pages. We are using the infinite model, and if we load too many registries, too many entries, the grid will have a virtual scrolling. Virtual scrolling allows me to load 200, 2,000, 5,000 rows, and the navigator will not be blocked. Virtual scrolling renders what the user is looking at the specific time. It will only render 30 of those many. And as the user scrolls, he will draw the 30 registries and then can go back to other registries. It's like a traditional scroll, no visual changes. Regarding pagination, page by page, we have some news. Apart from the navigation buttons that are traditional, go back, move forward, you can activate a button to show the numbers of pages, 1, 2, and then at the bottom you can see the rows we are looking at and the total number of rows. That may be useful in some scenarios. All of this can be obtained without programming. We have another property which is called automatic refresh. Some of you know it. If you use the web generator, it's been with GeneXus for a long time. Basically, when we have a variable on the screen that is connected to a grid, if the user makes a change in the variable, this will automatically refer to the grid. Let us look at a specific example. This is a screenshot with a GeneXus.com, and the application shows a grid with all the products we can download, and at the top we have a filter to search by name. On the left, we have the different dates to filter publication dates, and we have combos to filter by products or versions of the product. If I change any of those filters, the grid will be refreshed without you having to do another programming. GeneXus realizes automatically that this field's changed or something was added to them or whatever part, and GeneXus generates the necessary code to refresh the grid with the data that the user has entered. This property has been with GeneXus for quite some time, and it is available in the Angular generator. Regarding GeneXus platform, many back-office applications provide reporting, security solutions. And here we have the GX Query, GAM, and GXflow products that help us to work quickly and simply. Regarding GX Query, this is a solution for reporting. You can obtain business information, consultation, reports in a table or reporting or graphic form, linear bar charts. There are several options. And for this purpose, it has 4 controls: card, chart, table, and pivot table. They were prepared from scratch for the Angular generator. And this is very light and agile in terms of execution. And we have already released the chat control with all its variants. It prepares graphs. We do not have the timeline ready, but it's about to be published. And we are now working on the table controls. Then we have another product, GeneXus Access Manager, or GAM, which simplifies security issues for the back office. It simplifies login, permits, and so on. GAM is already available for the Angular generator. You need to activate it in the KB. It will install a module and will provide panels with a group of properties where you can define the type of authentication or authorization you're required to execute in such a panel, or what do you need to execute in such a panel. So we have some front-end examples. We have several objects that show how to prepare the more common panels with login, passwords, messages of error, if something is not complete. All these objects can be used with the Angular generator. Many of you probably are using them, and also with the iOS Android. Then we have a folder, backend examples, which refers to users, lists, roles lists, that type of screen. Well, this folder has examples for the web panel, and we are working to have them available by the early next year. So it's not difficult. You can start doing any work you like. If you get the tabular grid and you use the API, and you can start working. Finally, I will talk about GXflow for business process to define the tasks that we have to organize and to be executed. And we have an object called business process diagram. You can use the same object as you have defined it, or if you want to define a new model, you can do that. Or if you already have defined objects, you can use them.
We have all the objects of API and that you can use. And then we're also working on the back office. Lucas, there are many people working on this, of the back office of GXflow, which Lucas will be showing you in a minute. Now, as regards design, user experience and modeling screen, well, we have an object called the design system, and in GeneXus, we have the design system called Unanima, and it's included by default. This means the entire work of setting up the screens for this type of apps. Here on the left-hand side, this is a typical app applying Unanima, and we've solved the entire aesthetics of it, what goes, where goes the filter buttons, the fields, the titles, and the design system that we use in all GeneXus platforms, the GXflow, and we can see that in the example on the bottom left screen. We don't have many differences aesthetically between the ones you can do and the ones we do. And we also have Unanimo, the light and dark colors. You see it's the same color at the top, the same screen at the top, with a difference in the color, dark or light. And this depends on your preference in the navigator. It can be customized, as we see at the right-hand side, at the bottom. You can personalize the colors, and you can modify them and make a palette of colors that is more in agreement with your company. The master panel object, well, some time ago with GeneXus, you may know master page. The master panel is an analog in the world of panels, and we use it mainly for the design of common areas, for instance, the heading, the navigation menu, etc. And then each panel, I'm in charge of specifically designing what's necessary, and that must be included in that object. All the rest comes from master panel and goes to the final page. As regards controls, well, we are working on expanding our control library for our apps. We have a new module, which is called controls, that include controls for the different applications that we can generate. This is a list of the ones we're working on, focus on back-office apps. We have the sidebar, which we saw on the previous screen, the drop-down, which is user's menu that displays vertically, the dynamic action group control. These are controls typically associated to a grid, and we can use some elements or an action. Then the tree view, Lucas is showing you one. Then alert to show messages, step to build a wizard and show you step by step where we are. Well, the grids, we've just seen it at the beginning of the presentation, and now we are working on other controls that are going to be operating soon. And I'm going to give the floor to Lucas so he can show you more about this GXflow and how he's used all these characteristics and features and where we are in terms of filters.
Se complicó el mirror.
Se complicó el mirror. Windows P. Muy bien. Como comentó Daniel, en GeneXus tenemos la posibilidad de...
As Daniel said, in GeneXus, we have the possibility of creating an object and diagram to process a model. We distribute a back office, and that we set up with a web generator. We are focused on creating a back office with Angular and using the controls mentioned. This back office, which we distribute, allows users to see the pending tasks, any processes with the various diagrams they created, and also see some other details. I'm going to show you now the status of this back office, what the design is like, and some other comparison matters with the web generator. Here the app is running. It's an Angular app, and I have it in a Visual Studio, and let's get in. And we can see the inbox. What we can see is practically 90% of the controls that Daniel mentioned. I'm going to start mentioning the tabular grid, which is a new control. As you can see, we can see all the tasks linked to it. And we've already got the functionalities. I can move the columns from one place to the other. I can hide them. I can divide them. I have an automatic paging support, and I also have a search. I can search, and this is updated with the data. I can select an element in this grid, and here I can have a number of buttons with controls. This is the dynamic action group, which has the same way of working as the previous one. But the idea here is that I can execute the history of this task, and it gives me the entire history of this process. On the right, on the left-hand side, I have the inbox or outbox. I can go to my process and go back to my inbox once again. The top here, I have a header, and it has the user's name, which is authenticated. And if I click on the menu, I have a drop-down menu, which is a new control identical to the web generator. The sign out button is there, and I can also execute another control like the settings. If I look at the web, this is the application running. We can see that the form is the same to log in. I log in with the same user. I go to the inbox, and there I can see practically the same design and even the same grid. I can move columns from one place to the other. I can hide the ones I want. I have a resizing of columns. I have the same paging and the same filter for the grid. I can execute the same action group, and the same track record with the record of this process. On the left-hand side, I have the same sidebar. I can go to the outbox. And at the top, I have a header with the same drop-down menu. You can see that the design and colors are identical. And this is because, as Daniel said, we have an unanimous design system, which is included in all KB of GeneXus and which is available to facilitate design. You can customize it as you wish. You can change the palette of colors. You can replace whatever you want, so it's good. In Unanimo, I can change from dark to light automatically. If we now look at how all this is modeled and we compare it, let me show you what the inbox is like. As you can see, it's a grid with the data to be shown, the title of the panel, which is inbox in this case, and then I have an action group, a new. Practically 90% of the screens that we use in the GXflow Backoffice is a grid with data to be shown and an action group showing what elements to use on the grid. If we look at Angular, it's exactly the same. It's a grid that is tabled, and then I have a stencil. Now, for those coming from previous versions before 17, a stencil product allows us to encapsulate a design and use it for other panels. What I've encapsulated here is the title. I have an action group, I have the button, new, and then the search field. If I show you what this is from the header standpoint, then let's look at the master panel, which is the same as the master page generated by web. It works out in the same way. Header has been changed into a face table, and then the user control drop down, which is new and which is going to be made available soon. Let me show you another screen which I find it's interesting in terms of design, and it's collaborate. We can collaborate a task among various users, and so I have a tree view with the users. I can collaborate. I have the buttons here in between, and I can add users who want to collaborate. And as you can see, we can add them. Then we have a filter support. If I put my name there, you will get it, and it filters. Now from the buttons, I can remove the tree view elements and add them to the other one. And then I have buttons to confirm or cancel the data of this drop-up. Now, how can you read this in Angular? Well, you can either see a relatively simple mystery. I see the two tree views, which are a new control. It's very powerful, the one we're working with, and it has many functionalities. It has the support of grab and drop, filter support, multiple support. It's quite a powerful tree view. You'll be able to see it soon. Even it's more powerful even than the one included in the web. At the top-hand side, you have the search field for every tree view because it allows me to filter. And then at the lowest part of the screen at the bottom, you have the controls. To conclude, I'm going to show you the GX Mobile. You know that when you execute an event that goes to the server, you have to do it in a composite block. This means that the entire code block is executed. So I go to the server, I'm not using it, and it works fine. And this is because the Angular generator doesn't need it to work. So far, I've shown you how we are working in this new back office, the controls that we are using. And now I'd like to give the floor back to Daniel so that he can invite you to future talks and the next steps we're going to take. Thank you. Well, as you've seen, we have lots of possibilities. The Angular generator is focused on the back office. Then we have tabular grid, automatic refresh, the aesthetical management, multiple controls added to these apps, and the integration with all the products of the GeneXus flow. So you can start developing this type of back office app if you have requirements to use Angular in your projects. Or to use it as you prefer. This isn't the only type of application that you can do with the Angular generator. You can also build other types of apps. So stay on, and Nicolas Camara will be talking about other types of apps that are more sophisticated or less conventional that you can do with the Angular generator. And then after lunch, we have Martín Torrado in Ballroom A showing you front-end apps with the generator. Any questions? We are going to be around, and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you.